I want us to pay back $100,000 worth of student loan debt with money from a job that won't even pay us nearly half.
Y'all finna treat Uncle Sam like he your baby daddy?
I feel like these are the same people who don't pay their friends back.
You cannot get blood out of a turnip.
Y'all garnish my wages, I'm garnishing my job.
They were paused. They was eating crab legs.
Over half of our population can't read.
I'm not paying them back. I don't give a about my credit score.
You better charge to the game.
In the last 3 days or so, everybody on social media has been going back and forth about the involuntary collections that will be happening with student loans. Now, according to CNBC, U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon explained the U.S. Department of Education's decision to restart collection on federal student loans that are in default. It goes on to say, on May 5th, we will begin the process of moving roughly 1.8 million borrowers into repayment plans and restart collections of loans in default. And then Linda McMahon goes on to saying borrowers who don't make payments on time will see their credit scores go down, and in some cases, their wages automatically garnished. And according to this article, they recommend to be proactive if you are one of these 1.8 million people who may be behind on payments. Now, just to give a little context and backstory, the Education Department has not collected on defaulted student loans since March of 2020. Now, for all of you who know, that was around the time when we were all stuck in the house because of the you-know-what. And the article goes on to say that during the you-know-what, there was a pause on federal student loans. But that expired in September 2023. But that wasn't it, y'all. During the Biden administration, borrowers were offered another year, which according to this article, shielded from the impacts of missed payments. And that relief period officially ended on September 30th, 2024. And what you may also find really astonishing is that currently around 42 million Americans hold federal student loans, and roughly 5.3 million borrowers are in default. And the president of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget said in this statement, it really is time to start repaying again. While a short repayment pause was justifiable during the you-know-what, that I ain't gonna say, that was 5 years ago and makes no sense today. Now, I know this is a lot, but according to Newsweek, the Education Department said it will begin informing borrowers who are in default via email over the next 2 weeks, urging them to make a payment or to enroll in a repayment plan. But y'all, they said if they don't take action by May 5th, default borrowers will become subject to wage garnishments to collect their outstanding balances. Now, I know what a lot of y'all are thinking. We ain't got the money. We're all broke, allegedly. Failing to make your student loan payment on time or missing it altogether can eventually lead to default. And it goes on to say, once your loan goes into default, the full remaining balance of your loan, along with any accrued interest, becomes immediately due, known as an acceleration. And the government has the authority to recover the debt by garnishing your wages, withholding tax refunds, and seizing other federal payments. Other consequences include losing access to deferment, forbearance, and other benefits, including the option to choose a repayment plan. Y'all, that's big. Becoming ineligible for additional federal aid such as federal Pell Grants and new student loans. And another huge consequence that I've been hearing a lot of people talk about online is the default is reported to credit bureaus. Yes, y'all, essentially meaning this will show up on your credit report, which can significantly lower your credit score and impact your ability to finance a car, home, and obtain credit cards. Rebuilding your credit can take several years, and you could face restrictions on buying or selling certain assets, like real estate. And when we thought it couldn't get any worse than what we just read, it goes on to say your loan holder has the right to take legal action against you. You could be responsible for additional costs, including court fees, collection expenses, and attorney fees related to the collection process. And y'all, there is no shortage of videos online talking about what is going to occur on May 5th as far as these student loans. Let's see what the people of TikTok have to say. And let me know, do you agree?
I really was not finna pay them people their money. Like, seriously, like, I just got one question. You mean to tell me there ain't nobody back there that can just, that can just accidentally click the wrong button? Like, you can't just make a mistake and just wipe everything out. Like, you just can't make one mistake. I mean, dang, at least if they fire you, you'll be debt free. You know what the craziest part about this all?
What?
Really is?
What?
I want us to pay back $100,000 worth of student loan debt with money from a job that won't even pay us nearly half of that. Do you not know it's some people that went to school and got 3 degrees and they still don't even make $50,000 a year?
Right.
I don't know.
Honestly, I'm having a few different thoughts about all of this online. But just in reaction to what she was saying, she said she wasn't going to pay them folks their money. And I understand a lot of people are upset about student loans and the fact that it was paused during the you-know-what, and people didn't make any payments during that time, and that was their choice. But when the pause was over and you still had the idea that you didn't want to pay them folks their money, the question I have is, when you first took out the student loans, didn't you have a understanding that you would be paying the loans back? And if the answer was always yes, and you were fine with getting your degree, going to school, and going into debt for your degree, when you got the degree, or you didn't get the degree, or you went through the school, now you decide you don't want to pay. And now you say, it's above me now. I would like to ask if we use that same logic with any other loan. You are agreeing to pay the money back. That is a fact, y'all. I don't want to talk about the feelings and I don't want to pay or I shouldn't have to pay. I would love if we could all go to school for free, personally. However, that wasn't the reality of the situation when you were taking out the student loan. You knew you didn't get to go to school for free unless you had some sort of scholarship or you had grants or something like that. That's different for those people. If you signed on the dotted line for loans, you always understood you were going to have to pay money back. Now, I'm not even saying that I don't think the loans aren't predatory, especially for younger people who got the loans, people who were 17, 18, 19, taking out student loans for $100,000. But that also makes me say, where were the adults in the situation? Where were the parents? Where is the guidance from all these people in the community that are supposed to be helping the youth make better decisions? And I'm gonna be honest, most of them were being told, hey, just go to school, get a degree, you're gonna be fine. And a lot of people went to school and got degrees for things that were not helpful, things that do not pay any money. If you have $100,000 in student loans, or your student loans aren't really able to help you effectively pay back what you went to college for, or even worse, you don't even use your degree, that's a horrible situation to be in. To have essentially a useless degree that you now have to pay back money for. To make it even worse, some people go to very expensive colleges because that's what all their friends are doing, or that's the popular college. And guess what? They pay even more money. There are still consequences for your actions, no matter what you do in life. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I took that out when I was 18, I was 19, I was 20. This is the part of being an adult that a lot of the people making these videos need to be honest about. Nobody truly cares. As soon as you're 18, this is the real world. When y'all take out a loan, nobody cares what you're going through. They don't care what your life experience was. They don't care if you can't get a job. That's what y'all really need to be telling people, the truth. They want their money. And a lot of adults are not taking responsibility and taking accountability for the decisions that they made. Y'all are living proof that you will end up being held accountable. But y'all aren't talking about that part. If you don't pay your car loan, your car is going to get repoed. They don't care that you wanted the Ford Bronco. They don't care that this was your dream car. They don't care that you worked so hard and you deserve it. The same thing goes for a house. They don't care nothing about, oh, I lost my job, X, Y, and Z. If you don't pay your mortgage, the bank is coming to take their house back. Your house is going to get foreclosed on. So I kind of feel like when we start doing this with one thing, when it comes to even the student loans, do the rules still apply for every other decision that people make? Does it apply to the mortgages? Because if it does, I'm telling you, people would be wilding even more than they are right now. Don't get me wrong. Because they would know they would be forgiven for it. These are adult decisions. So the best thing to do is try to make the best adult decision you can. Go to college for something that's actually going to pay you a plethora of money so you can make sure if you took out X amount of student loans that you're actually able to repay it back. Don't get out of college and then start balling and then, oh, I want to go get this car. I want to go get this house. I want to go do start adding more expenses to your lifestyle and wonder why you don't got no money to pay back your student loans. Because now they don't even care that y'all are saying, I'm not going to pay it. They're saying they're garnishing your checks. They're saying they're going to take your taxes. And a lot of the people that are having these conversations online, they don't want to tell you what they went to school for because that's a big part of this conversation, y'all. It does matter. It matters what type of school you went to. It matters if you stayed on campus. It matters if you went to a community college or you went to a large university. Why? Because there is a huge difference in the cost for all of these things. It matters if you went to college through your job. It matters if you had a scholarship. It matters if you come from a family who was willing to pay for you to go to college. It matters if you came from a family who was not willing to pay for you to go to college and was broke. And then also, student loans, if some of y'all don't know, is one of the things that you cannot file in bankruptcy. You cannot include your student loans in that. You are not getting away from paying your federal student loans to Sally Mae. I'm sorry. And y'all, I seen a comment under one of the videos regarding student loans. Somebody said if you're not actively making repayments to your student loan, you shouldn't be able to use your degree. And I thought about it. And I was like, if they're actually using the degree to make money, but they just don't want to pay their student loans, that's quite interesting.
My mama always used to say, you cannot get blood out of a turnip. I'm not worried about this whole student loan debt. I'm not. We all know it's a targeted attack on the poor. We know it's a targeted attack on people who are just low income, living paycheck to paycheck, who just wanted to make, a possibility of breaking generational curses by going back to school or going to school, getting degrees. And they utilize financial aid to do that. And unfortunately, there aren't any jobs in the majority of the fields that people have degrees in. So they had to resort to just making ends meet by going to jobs and, getting positions in places that they didn't get educated for, that they didn't go to school to get a degree for. And now they're defaulted on student loans. I'm not going to lie. I'm defaulted. But you can't get blood out of a turnip. I don't have it. I don't take my refund. I didn't get one this year any way. I don't care. Like, it's not going to hurt me because people like myself, we pretty much operate in survival mode. I'm only going to pay the bills and I'm only going to tend to things that need to be tended to. All right.
If you are young and you are operating in survival mode and you think that you're about to go to college and break a generational curse by going to college, please keep in mind that that loan is on you 1000% of the way. I know a lot of these people are on here talking. They're upset. They're like, I was trying to break generational curses. I was trying to do this. I was poor. Y'all, I get it. But if you don't have a plan that shows that it will have good results, you more than likely are not about to break any sort of generational curse by going to college. I don't care if you're the first in your family to go to college. Don't go to college just to say you went to college because you think it's going to break some curse, or you think that going to college is the end-all be-all for success. Everything needs to be very strategic, especially when you ain't got no money. You need to be even more strategic. And I'm saying that as somebody who had to be extremely strategic because they didn't have no money. They didn't have a family with money. Nobody had nothing to give. It was a good week when I could get a bus pass a week ahead of time. What? You have more to lose when you don't have anything to lose. And she's saying here, can't get blood out of a turnip. Ma'am, what are you going to do if they decide to take this from your paycheck? What is the plan? Like, what? And I even heard people saying they're going to go from getting direct deposit, which they are currently getting, to getting paper stubs so they can avoid getting their checks garnished. And you know what I was thinking? And y'all tell me if I'm wrong. I'm wondering if you take it to a bank, are they going to have it to where the bank teller is going to have to put in that they actually gave you money from your account, but you just aren't giving it to the government because you're trying to avoid them garnishing your checks? Do y'all get what I'm saying? Because a lot of people would just probably hand a bank teller the check and try to get the money. But what if the system is like, hey, they did that transaction, they just took the money and it was never in their account? What are y'all finna do? And how are y'all going to find all the time to go pay all the different people y'all got to pay, like the electric company, the gas company, all these different, you going to go get them cash and stand in them lines? Y'all finna have the lines extra long. They going to need some more workers at the utility companies because people are trying everything right now. And y'all, if you ever had your wages garnished, I just thought about the fact that it is garnished before it even gets to you. It's taken out just like the taxes are automatically. It's taken out just like for the people who are on child support.
And whatever's left is mine. If you feel like you're going to garnish my pay to pay student loans, baby, I will make money without being on the books. There are ways to get paid under the table. Believe that. You don't have to get paid on the table. You don't have to get a W-2 job. You can do 1099 work. You have to report everything you earn to the government.
And you know what this kind of reminds me of? My mom told me somebody in our family had a bunch of kids and he didn't want to pay child support. So until his kids turned 18, he worked under the table. She said he did odd jobs to make a living because he didn't want his baby moms to put him on child support. And so I was telling her, like, didn't he limit his potential for like 20 years because he didn't want to pay child support? And she was like, he didn't care. He did not want to give them nothing. And I said, man. And I say that to say, y'all finna treat Uncle Sam like he your baby daddy, going through all these hoops to run from your obligations? People are entitled to do what they want to do. This is a choice. And this is why I'm saying, y'all be hollering, y'all don't have choices. All the choices being made here, the choice to pay or to not pay, the choice to work under the table because you're not giving them none of your money. These are choices. All I'm hearing in this video is alternative decisions you want to make, alternative routes you're going to take to avoid what you agreed to. These are choices. Please keep that in mind as we keep listening to this video. Whatever the consequences on that is on you.
It's just being real. Y'all want to play games? We can play this game. The people who know how to operate in survival mode, people who know how to make 1 and 2 equal 3, 4 plus 4 equal 8, to make things work from A to Z, we ain't worried about that. We really ain't. Nobody was really dependent on the government to have the backs of people who don't have money, who don't have enough to make ends meet. These jobs don't pay enough to pay your bills. They pay enough to make ends meet. Get another job. 2 jobs don't pay enough to make ends meet. A household with 2 incomes is not enough anymore. So this is just a layer on top of a bunch of bull that we really don't give a fuck about. But you can't get blood out of a turnip, so do what y'all gotta do. Ain't nobody sweating the student loan shit. I promise you that. Ain't nobody sweating this shit.
I don't believe that last part. I think people are sweating it. And if they're not sweating it right now, I honestly think they will come May 5th or whenever they default on their loans, because this will start affecting people's credit. Now, I know a lot of people are like, I don't need credit. Like my credit bad. I don't care. This could start affecting if you're able to rent in certain places. If you don't have money to pay back your student loans, you probably don't have enough to just go out and buy a house. What about if your car breaks down and you need to finance another one? Because if you don't have money for your student loans, you probably ain't got money for a car. Other things will end up being affected. Whether y'all care about paying Uncle Sam back or not, you have to think ahead and not just, I'm not giving them nothing. If you're renting, you should care. If you don't have any way to make sure in every situation that you don't have to go through an application process to make sure something is able to get approved that you need to live off of, you do need to care. That could even be your electric bill. Do you know that sometimes when your credit is so bad, if you're applying for certain utilities, you will have to make additional down payments that other people would not have to make because of your credit score? Do y'all understand that it's not just about the student loans? It's going to affect a lot of other things. I'm just saying, maybe looking into the payment plan options and what you can do might not be a bad idea, unless you're going to go through the extremes that this lady talking about. It seems like they're going to get their money about you. And a lot of people talking about they're going to work under the table. But my whole thing is, what skills do a lot of these people have to where they can make a large amount of money and able to sustain their lifestyles under the table? A lot of people can't even bake a cake. Talking about working under the table, can't even put together a table. And on top of that, there needs to be a demand for the services you offer, or else ain't nobody finna pay you anything. And it's almost like saying, do you want to do this the easy way or the hard way?
Really can't believe it's people in the comments of this student loan situation talking about this is how the world works. You borrow money, you pay it back. Shut your stupid ass up.
Calling someone stupid that is trying to remind you of the reality of how contracts work because you do not want to pay and hold up the agreement that you signed, and calling them stupid is quite interesting. These are emotional reactions that I've been hearing so far. The facts are still, whether you called the next person stupid or not, it was your decision to sign up for student loan repayment. Okay.
School loan ain't the same as an auto loan or a home loan or a personal loan, you idiot.
No, it is not the same. Those loans can be filed in bankruptcy. Student loan repayments cannot. I would actually say it's worse. This is the one loan that you're not getting away from.
Black people, minorities especially, had to go to school. We ain't left. We had to go to school. I had no choice but to go to school.
Black people, minorities, had no choice but to go to school. Whether you thought it was a good decision or not a good decision to go to school, and whether you acted on that, was your choice. And I am also a minority and a Black person. I did not go into school and sign up for student loan debt. I did not come from a family that had money. When I graduated, I didn't even have a car. I didn't even have a driver's license. I was catching the bus. I was working at a fast food place. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and nobody had 2 nickels to give me. And even understanding all of this was going on, I knew that going to college was probably the worst financial decision for me, being an 18-year-old broke with no money, because I didn't even have $300 in my pocket. Faced with a lot of the same things that she is probably talking about, And I looked my parents in their eyes and said, I'm not going. I'm not going into debt. I've never seen that much money in my life. I joined the military. And by no means am I saying that that is the route that everybody has to go. My point that I'm making here is I had a choice. And that was during a time of rapid deployment. I ended up going to Afghanistan. But I don't have student loans. And I know a lot of people probably want to talk down on the military, but the military afforded me the opportunity to be able to go to college for free and to not be buried in the student loans. That was what I was seeing happening all around me. Everybody getting buried in student loans. Separately, I also seen people go into student loan debt and bust their butts to pay off their debt. They lived with their parents in order to try to pay off their student loans. They didn't want to. They wanted to go out and have their freedom like everybody else, you know, when you're younger. But they did what was best for their wallet. They may not have gone to the best college. It may have been a community college that nobody knows about. But a degree is a degree. I think people have a little bit more power than what she is saying here.
And when I went to school, it wasn't like I'm working for my damn self now. I'm making money for other people.
That's typically what happens when you go to school, unless you are going to school to be a business owner or entrepreneur. So again, what do these people go to school for? And to be a business owner and entrepreneur, it's also not a requirement to go to school. So I'm trying to make sense of what y'all got going on online.
And the money gets taxed. This is all going back into the hand. It's like a big circle, and y'all fail to realize that.
Let's just entertain this idea. Things very well may be in a big circle. However, she said people fail to realize that. Now, my question is, whether you realize it or not, do you still owe student loans or not? Once you have been awakened, will you still owe your student loans or not? And also, if you work for yourself, your money gets taxed. It's actually worse. How do I know? Because I've done it. It's called self-employment tax. So what are y'all talking about? And it's even worse when it's somebody that's like, and because I'm a black woman, I'm black too. I'm trying to understand, how does the logic of what we're talking about change based on all these other external factors we're throwing in there? At the end of the day, it's still a choice to sign up for the student loan. It is. It really is, y'all. Nobody is forcing your hand. And that's the truth we need to talk about. I understand you're disgruntled about having to pay it back. I understand it's a large amount. I understand this economy sucks. The price of eggs are ridiculous. Everybody is running up debt like crazy. I get it. But that does not take away from the facts that you decided to sign and agree to pay something back.
Credit score is made the fuck up. That's a made up money made the fuck up. This is a system. America is a system. I'm confused at how the hell y'all still don't realize this. Then on top of that, y'all ain't even willing to try to make reasonable payment plans. Y'all ain't even trying to do like $100 a month. Y'all want the whole y'all want $2,000 a month on a goddamn degree that people ain't even using. When I got out of school, I couldn't even use my degree right away. They wanted 100 years of experience. Like, what the
And again, what is the degree in? A lot of other factors come into play. What experience did you have? Did you intern? Did you work a job in the field that you had while you were in school? Now, I know a lot of people want to be upset right now, but I want to think about the people who are able to successfully do the things that people are complaining about. And from what I see, that is what they're doing. I'm not saying she didn't do that. I'm not saying she still probably wouldn't struggle to get a job, because there are a lot of different factors and variables into what we're talking about. But just from listening to this video, I'm not really hearing much accountability for what she decided to do. I'm hearing a lot of anger. I'm hearing a lot of frustration, which I understand. But where is the accountability in adults nowadays? I'm starting to get worried.
y'all garnish my wages? I'm garnishing my job. Period. I get energy siphoned daily, restraining myself from hopping through the computer and people out daily. And I've been doing this since I've been 16. I've been working in America since I've been 16 and ain't got too much to show for it other than the standard American properties. So if you disagree with whatever I say, you could do the hokey pokey, turn your ass around, lick your own ass and burn in hell.
And we rebuke all of that in the name of Jesus. And this is why we really need to pray for people. Y'all, because you disagree with the sentiments of somebody, now they want you to burn. These are the type of people we are dealing with here on earth. And this is how I know spiritual warfare is real. The battle that a lot of y'all think we're fighting, you don't even understand. And if you do understand, that's really good. And that's why I say we just need to pray for people like this.
I don't know if I've had too many magical chocolates, but I'm gonna need y'all to really wrap your mind around what we're really in. Because y'all are sick.
We're in spiritual warfare. That's what we're in. And we're in a race to avoid accountability.
The reason why you have to pay your student loan debt is because you took out a loan that was optional. The key word is optional. I paid mine off.
Oh, no, don't do that. You telling people you paid off your student loans and it was optional is fighting words. And I don't know if that is because it's actually the truth. Somehow, whatever the truth is ends up becoming something to be attacked. But you actually can't dispute what she's saying. You can't dispute. Nobody forced you to 100,000, 200,000, liberal art. Nobody. Come on. Because if we admitted that, then you would have to admit that it was on you. And that's why, in my opinion, we won't hear much of that in these videos, because that's called accountability. And people don't like accountability when it's something that brings them discomfort or an action that now has a reaction or an effect that they don't see as satisfactory.
Emmy doesn't want to pay for student loan.
Okay, so she's replying to a comment that says, because we as citizens didn't want to pay for y'all student loans. Okay, it's not the taxpayer's place to pay for a loan that you signed up for. The effing entitlement from you people is mind-boggling, not our debt. So she's responding to that.
And I said to Emmy, you know what I said? Well, Emmy, I purposely didn't have children. You know why? Because I didn't want to pay for them.
Okay.
And also, I don't really get along with them. But guess what? Every paycheck and every April 15th, my taxes, a lot of them come out to running public schools. And I don't have any children in them. But I happily give my money to that education. I don't ever fight it. You know why? Because if everybody would get a fucking education, Emmy, then this would be the number one country. We're not the number one country. You know why? Because over half of our population can't fucking read.
They can't.
So of course, I would continue to have no problem and will never complain about giving my money to your fucking children. And so what I don't understand is we should do the same thing for university students up to a bachelor's degree. Our tax dollars should pay for students who want to go to college.
I actually would like people to be able to go to college for free up to a bachelor's. That would be great. I've lived in other countries. In Germany, they specifically look out for their citizens as far as their education goes. I think it's amazing. The taxes in Germany are ridiculous, though. If you know, you know. But additionally, she said in the beginning, she didn't have children because she didn't want to pay for them. But then she ended up saying, but I have no problem pretty much paying for other people's kids through her property taxes. In my head, just registered it like, well, if you didn't even have children because you didn't want to pay for them, wouldn't that same logic apply for people going to school? You don't go to college because you don't want to pay for the debt. You see, do y'all get what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to pay for something, so you don't put yourself in the situation to where you have to pay for it. She said she didn't want to do something because it would put her into a financial obligation because you just can't stop paying for the kids once you have the kids. That's kind of the same thing for the student loans that you agreed to sign up for. Because at the time it matters. At the time, the agreement is that you are going to bear all responsibility financially for your student loan, not everybody else around you. It was never told to you like, hey, you're going to be able to go to school for free unless you had a scholarship or something like that. If you're signing up for student loans, that's not the conversation that was had. But I do agree that I think it would help better society as a whole and we'd have a lot more educated people. So
what a great place this would be. Don't you think that would be great? But you're so mad. You're so mad at people who got an education who came from nothing and can't pay for their student loans. You got mad at that because that's your fucking privilege.
I don't think it's a privilege to be mad that I'm so confused. Did she just flip the script and say, what? If you do something, that's on you. And if I do something, that's on me. Calling somebody else privileged because they expect for someone to repay a loan that they agreed to me points out that that person is pointing out the personal responsibility of the borrower. Many people who oppose loan forgiveness also came from nothing, worked multiple jobs, and sacrificed a lot of money to pay back their debt. It's not privilege. This is a principle. But I think people have internalized this as an attack on people who have went through any sort of struggle. And I think a lot of other people are just calling for equal accountability and not selective sympathy.
How about you send your kids to private school and then none of us have to pay for your fucking kids? All right? Thanks, Emmy.
And what got me is she said, why don't you send your kids to private school? That's assuming Emmy has children. What if Emmy doesn't have children just like you because she don't want to pay for the kids? And trust me, I get where she's coming from because I too pay property taxes and I don't have no kids. It's going to the school up the street, but I ain't tripping about it. Also, because I'm just like, hey, they taking taxes for all sorts of stuff. But those are the kids. Those are the kids. That's the school system. And the school system also affects the property value around where you live. People want to live in an area that has a nice school, and the school needs funding, which comes from the taxes and the people who live in the county. It's a whole lot of stuff that goes into it, y'all. It's not just as black and white as people are making it seem, but at least it's going to making the community you live in better, making the children growing up in the community you live in better. Hopefully they're getting a lot of funding from the taxpayer dollars so they can actually grow up in the community you live in with good resources, with a good education, and be productive members of society. I'm not against that at all. But what we're talking about is adults. These kids don't have a choice whether they go to school or not. When I was growing up, I seen people's moms getting arrested, moms and dads getting arrested because their kids weren't in school. So when we're talking about children versus grown adults who are signing up for hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt, it's a little bit different. I'm sorry, it is. By the time you're able to get student loans, you may not fully grasp the gravity of what you're doing if you're bearing yourself into a whole lot of debt at that young age, but at least you can articulate and try to get understanding. You have graduated high school. You are now technically legal and better able to comprehend what you are being told by the adults around you. Hopefully your parents are there in your corner, or you have some sort of adult that is going to help you better navigate adulthood and not just feed you to the wolves at 18, because that's another problem. But ma'am, you're talking about grade school kids. Like, what? What?
Girl, how you paying for all these degrees? I'm not. I'm not finna pay for all that. That's why I keep going back to school.
Well,
the way I'ma act like I don't know what a student loan is, what even is that? I don't know how Sam finna get his money back. He better charge it to the game.
And you want to know what's crazy? She actually released that on February 24th. All of this news about the student loan repayment stuff just came out this week. Pound Med student too. And as it stands right now, they're going to get the money back from taking it from your wages, from your income that you make at your job. Somebody here said, facts, I'll pay off my mortgage before I pay off these student loans. Sam knew I didn't have it every time he lent it to me. And a whopping 2,450 people like this comment here that says, free masters, free doctorate, no loans. I refuse to pay for higher education, and I'm not mad at that one bit. And you know, the inquiring minds like myself wanted to know, how did you get your free master's, if you don't mind me asking? And she replied, I am in STEM, and I was in a program. They covered tuition and gave me a stipend. See, this is the type of stuff y'all need to be online talking about. Sharing ways to go get higher education for either really cheap and affordable price that you are actually okay with paying for, or figuring out ways to do it for free. Now, that's why I mentioned the military, because I know a lot of y'all, I'm not joining the military. Okay, I went to college. I didn't pay. So this is how I feel. If you find a way to either do it for cheap or do it for free or get a company to cover it or a program to cover it, that ends up being so helpful to a lot of people, because now you aren't buried in student loan debt at a very young age, or even at a very old age for a lot of people. And look, somebody here even said it. I'm not. I have 4, and they were all free. The military paid for mine. And I'm looking at some of these people in these videos. I mean, you might need to get a little fit, hit the gym, knock them little 3-4 years out, and get a degree and be able to go to school. Hey, find a way that works well for you, or be prepared to actually pay people back their money, which means you need to be very thoughtful about the type of degree you get.
And I'm sure that once we all have to start actually paying back our loans, a lot of us are going to go into default. Of course, they're just pushing us to, get income-driven payment plans. And yeah, but it's just like, we were promised to go to college and get like these high paying jobs, and none of us are getting hired. And now we have to pay back all this money. And I get it. I got a service, all that. Totally cool with me. But yeah, I just feel like it's all very abrupt and not giving anybody time to actually set up the ability to do this when we were kind of fed bullshit down the tube to begin with.
Now, I have to be honest. We were fed a bunch of BS by the boomers, Gen X, some even by the millennials. However, even though we were fed a bunch of BS, at this point is neither here nor there. There's not any contract you're going to sign when it comes to repaying money back that you're going to be able to go up there and be like, I was fed a bunch of BS by people around me who told me everything was going to be rainbows and butterflies. And it's not. So I don't think I should have to pay you guys back. Do you think seriously, y'all, that doesn't make sense. Why would they care? If I gave somebody $100 right now and I said, hey, pay me back next month, and you swear you gonna pay me back, you say, oh, I'm gonna pay you back, I got you, and next month comes and I ask you for my money and you say, well, life's been hard, it's been blah, blah, blah. A lot of y'all don't even like when your own friends and family do you like that. So that's why I'm trying to understand how just because something didn't work in your favor, you as the person on the opposite end waiting on the repayment is supposed to be like, well, I'll just forget, just keep the $100. Just keep it. Y'all don't operate like that with nothing else in life. And then on top of that, she was saying like she feels like they don't have enough time to get stuff together. The student loan repayments were paused for many years. And you know what's even crazier about that? That was actually during a time where a lot of people could have paid their student loans back with no interest. With no interest. They were paused. So the people who were making the payments were making them back without the interest that usually eats a lot of people up when they're trying to pay off a loan. And those people seen a full opportunity, took advantage of it, and paid off their student loans or paid off a good majority of it with no interest. They didn't have to do it, but they took advantage of the opportunity that was there. And guess what? I'm willing to bet the people who took advantage of that are very happy they did so in this moment. And if you did, congratulations to you. There was a time. And sadly, many people didn't seize the opportunity during that time. And I remember what was going on during that time. People were blowing money, stimulating the economy. They were spending money like left and right. Do y'all remember during the you-know-what? People were out buying big screens. They was eating crab leg boils, buying new cars, buying new clothes. Everybody was decked out. And I want to point that out because when you see a bunch of people doing stuff like that, you probably need to look around and say, wait, hold up. If everybody is out blowing money and making these companies rich and not paying their student loans, then I might want to do the opposite. And not many times do people do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. And I remember during that time, y'all ain't finna gaslight me. Everybody was balling back there and nobody had a care in the world. And now today, all of that money is gone. People are, oh, I spent it all. Yeah, you did. And we seen you do it. We seen what you were buying. I'm not talking about her, but But there was a time when your opportunity comes in life to be able to do something that will put you ahead, do it. You think they wanted to do that? But look at the situation it puts you in later.
Okay, I know I'm going to get torn up in the comments. However, can we just talk about the outrage that's going on now? Because the Department of Education under Linda McMahon is going to start making borrowers pay up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're going to send out notices if you've been in default, forbearance. Generally, I don't understand any of y'all that took the pause in payments during the pandemic and ran with it like you weren't going to have to pay your student loans back.
Yeah.
Do you know how much you could have paid down without interest being charged in that time period?
That's what I was saying. Now, everybody's skipping over that part. And I don't know why they're skipping over it because that's a big factor. Y'all, I met somebody at a coffee shop and this girl ended up telling me she had student loans. And I was like, oh, dang, okay. I said, yeah, it's probably pretty rough making those payments. She was like, no, I'm not making them and I'm not going to pay them. And I looked at her. I said, isn't it like interest free right now? She said, yeah, but I mean, what are they going to do? And I was just like, well. And as we kept talking, she was telling me how she goes out and parties every day and she goes to lounges and she eats out every day and she's trying to get her body right and all these different things. But essentially all I was hearing was money being blown. And I was like, why she ain't pay back her student loans if it's interest free, but she could eat out every day and go parties and go to the clubs and the concerts. She was telling me, I go to concerts, I go to comedies and I do this and that. I was so confused, y'all. And that honestly is the case for a lot of people I see. They're just allocating their money on what they want to do. And I understand you don't want to pay back your student loans. And at this point, some people may actually put themselves in a bad financial situation trying to pay back their student loans. And just doing some reflection back during a couple of years ago, things were not as bad for people. People seemed like they had a lot more money for leisure activities and other things. But now it's not like that when you're talking to people.
And I know I'm going to get comments. Oh, how would you know? Because I had to pay for whatever scholarship didn't cover. And I have a master's degree from an expensive private school, big ups Northwestern University, top 10 in the country. Point being, I had to pay my student loan debt back with interest that accrued
I ended up paying about $70,000 and I paid it all off when I was 30, 29 or 30, and I got a big check.
Right.
And I asked my father, what do I do? Like, I could keep this for a house down payment. And he said, Brittany, immediately pay off your student loans. You never want debt in life. If you can get rid of debt, do it, especially in this situation where your graduate school interest rates are higher at like 7 to 9%.
Wow.
Pained me, but I paid him off. You don't get a party. You just get an email. It's really anticlimactic, but I did, and I'm so glad I did. And my father also broke down the cost of colleges when I was 16, 17, and straight up said, you're not going to these out-of-state schools. You're not going to a private school for 4 years. I can't afford it. I can afford my prepay. I can afford Florida State schools. And if you get a scholarship somewhere, which I did at a smaller private school in Florida, we will get the remaining amount. But grad school is on you. All this to say, like, he broke it down. I don't understand any of y'all that just come from middle-class families and went to these like $50,000 a year universities. And it is. I understand the frustration. It is a scam.
And I would say this. It's great that her dad explained that to her, but I know a lot of parents don't. I'm going to be honest about that. They don't even understand it. They just think or thought, just go to school, get a degree, and that's that. Some of them didn't even care what the degree was in. They just wanted you to go to college because that's what everybody else around was doing. Just go to college. And some of the parents go to college for what you really wanted, like what you really like. And now those kids have degrees that they can't use, degrees that don't pay them any money. And they're on TikTok telling their stories. And it's really sad because the parents aren't helping them pay it back. And that's why you got to make all decisions for yourself. If your parents aren't putting you through school, I'm sorry, but put yourself first. Like, that's what I did. My mom tried to talk to me about college. I said, I'm not going. Because I just was of the belief that if you really wanted me set up to go to college, y'all should have had something for me. They would have made sure the cash was there. The cash wasn't there. Now it's on me to do what's best for me. Because at the end of the day, I knew wasn't nobody gonna help me out. And a lot of y'all know that. Y'all know it's going to be on you. And don't lie to yourself about the truth because it makes you feel more comfortable. Sometimes the truth hurts. It definitely hurt to know, dang, I don't got two nickels to rub together. And if anything happened, don't nobody got me. But that's the truth. Now, granted, I can always go move back in with my mom and stuff like that now. But back then, that wasn't the case.
Interest rates, if there's anything politicians should do, it should be to lower interest rates. Because you never fully get to paying off your principal because you're paying off the interest.
She is right. And that would be so helpful. Maybe even lowering it could be, a big thing. Because I understand people did sign on the dotted line. But the fact that they were paused was such a huge deal. Man, how so many people could have got ahead during that time. Such an opportunity that could have been seized.
That is what should be addressed. But Democrats always campaign on getting rid of debt. They never will. It's the one area of the federal government that makes money. You took out the money. You pay it back, coming from someone who paid it back. And when I see all these posts and comments about, they never bail out the little person. Yes, they do. PPP loans, different industries. It is what it is, but that is your debt. I feel like these are the same people who don't pay their friends back when they go on trips and stuff. Like, you spend money, you pay it back.
And that's what I was saying earlier. These would be some of the people that if you loan them $100, you ain't forget it. And then when you got it back, they'd be like, you could take your little funky $100. You gonna hit me with an attitude after I helped you?
I'm not paying back my student loans. I do not care. Oh, but what about your credit score? What am I going to do with a good credit score? Buy a house on starvation wages? Buy a car I can't afford to insure?
Y'all aren't even going to be able to rent somewhere if your credit is that bad. Do y'all? Lord have mercy.
I'm not paying them back. I don't give a about my credit score. Oh, they're going to garnish your wages. Most of us are underemployed.
Underemployed is wild.
If they start taking additional money out of my paycheck, I just won't work. My life will not get worse. I'm not going to have the money anyway. So you can't garnish what isn't there. I grew up in a far-right, conservative, hardcore Republican family. And since kindergarten, I have been conditioned to believe that if I did not go to college, I would not be successful. I was told that if I locked in, got great grades in high school, got into college, focused, and got my degree, that I would have a life similar to the life my parents had, where my dad worked one job for 35 years, was able to buy a house and go on vacation and support his family. That doesn't exist anymore. There's no jobs out there with pension plans. There's no jobs out there that let people my age just buy a house. So what was all that work for?
Honestly, now pensions are very far and few in between. They ended up replacing pensions in a lot of jobs with 401ks. And a lot of people don't even contribute to that. A lot of people get matches from their jobs for 401ks for their retirements. And a lot of people aren't taking advantage of that. So more than likely, they won't be able to retire. That's the honest truth. He is absolutely right. Back then, the parents used to be able to work one job, get a pension, and then they was chilling, and then they could chill off of Social Security. But I'm telling you now, we are in a different age. If you don't have investments or some sort of passive income streams coming in every month, you more than likely won't be able to retire. We will be lucky if we even have Social Security by the time we hit 67. Now, one thing I also know is that we can make this a lot worse for ourselves, or we can try our best. But saying that you don't care about your credit, you just don't care about nothing as far as financial literacy and trying to be good financially, I personally don't think helps fix the problem that we have at hand. Everybody has a choice.
Generations of Americans have been told that if they went to college and they did the right thing, took out these loans, that it would be worth it.
Yeah.
And most of us are finding out it's not even remotely close to worth it.
He's
You're
right.
telling me these millionaires and billionaires were able to get these PPE loans forgiven that they took out during the pandemic for millions of dollars, but I have 30 grand in college debt left and I'm refusing to pay it back, and now I'm the problem?
I often hear people say that, oh, they're bailing out the big businesses, but not the people with the student loans. And I can definitely understand where they're coming from. But rationally speaking, I haven't seen many bailouts for the citizens to where I would ever think that I should be expecting or entitled to any sort of bailout. That's not the America that I've been living in. Whenever I ever got caught up in some stuff, I never thought, oh, somebody's going to come help me out. So I'm trying to understand, is this what many of y'all really thought when you took out your student loans, is that the government was going to come bail you out? And I understand that now in this current time, this is what a lot of people are wanting because it was talked about during certain people's presidencies. But I do want to know, for the people who got student loans, do you feel entitled to that just because the bigger businesses got bailed out at any other time in history? And I say this sincerely as somebody who signed their name on the line to fill obligations for a contract so I could go to school for free. I held up my end of the deal. They held up their end of the deal. Have we now got to a point in society where we can sign contracts and go to school and get educated and learn and do all these things and live in the dorms and say, hey, we'll pay you back for all of this knowledge and experience that we had, and then once we actually get it, say, I'm not giving you anything? And big shout outs to all of you who participated in the community poll where I asked you all, how are you feeling about delinquent student loan payments being garnished from wages starting May 5th? 25% of y'all said, I already paid mine. 6% said, and I'm still not paying, regardless. 19% said, I'm working with them to pay it back. And 50% said, I never had student loans. And this poll was out of 4.1 thousand votes. I just want to know, what do you all think about this down below? If you took out student loans, do you feel like the federal government should forgive you for them because they are bailing out all of these billionaire, millionaire companies? We have to start making better decisions today in order to have a better future.